Please state your name for the record.
Greg Garrison.
And you're a principal in a company, correct?
Yes.
And what's that company?
It's Oilfield Testing and Consulting.
And can you briefly explain for us what Oilfield Testing and Consulting is, what they do?
We are a third party or an independent cement testing facility. We follow API procedures for the oil field and oil well applications from shallow, cool to hot and deep wells.
And it appears, sir, that you were hired your company at least was hired at some point to do some testing on behalf of the Joint Investigation Team with regard to the cement slurries from the Macondo well, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did your company actually perform that testing?
Yes.
And did it receive certain slurries and certain additives regarding the cement from the Macondo well or representative samples of that?
Yes.
Is this report, sir, first page dated August 1st of 2011, directed to a Mrs. Sylvia Murphy with the JIT, the Joint Investigation Team? Is this the complete report relative to the cement testing and analysis that your company performed on behalf of the JIT?
Yes.
Now, were you involved in either the testing itself or supervising the testing that was performed?
Yes.
Okay. And with respect to the testing, were there specific testing protocols that you followed?
Yes.
And who provided those protocols to you for the tests?
The JIT.
And if on a given test you were going to perform, if there wasn't specific protocols within that test, was there any other guidelines that you followed when you performed those tests?
Yes, we followed API guidelines.
So I'd like to refer you to page 34, section 11, the foam stability test. Now, in this test, sir, you tested also a number of different compositions of the cement slurry, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you also tested something you have listed as MAC4. What is that on page 35 in that first box?
That MAC4 is a specific formulation using the cement from the rig.
Okay, so this test, the foam stability test, not only did your company test the different compositions as is set forth in this top box on page 35, you also actually tested the cement samples that were provided to you from the Macondo well?
Yes.
Okay, basically the rig samples themselves, correct, sir?
The cement, specifically the cement.
Okay. Now, with respect to all the tests, sir, that you performed for foam stability, I'd like to turn you to page 38. You tested both the unset foam and on page 39 the set foam, correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay. And with respect to the testing on page 38 of the unset foam, what does it mean here, sir, where every sample that you tested showed bubble breakout? What does that mean?
The bubble breakout is just saying that once the foam is generated, we're seeing bubble breakout, which is an indication that the foam slurry is not stable.
And sir, would you agree that at least for purposes of the testing that you did on the unset foam slurry, you would interpret the test of all of the different compositions of the cement slurry, including the Macondo well sample that you've described as not being stable?
That's correct.
And this is the cement testing you did at the request of the JIT, correct?
Correct.
Now, if you could turn to page 38.
Okay.
Now, 38 sets out basically the results of your unset foam slurry test.
Yes.
And then 39 sets out the results of your set foam slurry test.
Yes.
Now, this morning, and let me just ask you again, on page 38, do any of these test results indicate to you that the foam cement is stable on page 38?
No.
Okay. So going down to the last row, MAC4, that is the Macondo rig sample, correct?
Correct.
Now, does anything in that row indicate to you that that test was somehow good as opposed to any of the other tests?
No, same result.
Is there anything in the row labeled MAC4, which is the rig blend, correct?
Correct.
That indicates the unset foam slurry test indicated that sample was stable?
No.
Okay, and it actually indicates that there was bubble breakout on that sample.
Yes.
And what is bubble breakout?
It just means that my foam is basically falling apart. When you say bubble breakout, I'm losing volume inside my graduated cylinder.
If you could turn to page 42. Figure 17 and 18 show the Macondo MAC4 sample in the graduated cylinder, correct?
Correct.
And so you, did you personally observe when this sample was poured?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, and because I mean this sample is this sample is the key sample. I mean this is the one from the rig, right? So you observed it.
Yes.
When the test was conducted. So if we flip back to page 38 for the Macondo MAC4 sample indicates bubble breakout. That's something you, Mr. Garrison, observed.
Yes.
And whether or not it's depicted in the picture, you observed that there was loss in volume and bubble breakout.
That's correct.
And that is a sign of an unstable foam.
It's a parameter that we followed in the industry for years, yes.
And so you tested the set foam slurry of all the different compositions, correct?
Yes.
Including the Macondo well sample that we've talked about, correct?
Yes.
Were any of the set foam cement slurries stable?
On all the samples, we saw segregation from top to bottom.
Okay, and what does that mean?
It means that the system's not stable.
Okay. Now, let's turn to figure 20, which is on page 43.
Figure 40, which page?
Page 43, figure
I'm sorry?
20.
Yes.
Now, this picture shows the MAC4 Macondo cement that you were curing in the cubes.
Yes.
And the cubes are filled to the top when you begin the test.
Yes.
And so a loss in volume, what does that mean?
It depicts a instability of the slurry.
And you personally, Mr. Garrison, observed that?
Yes, I observed the pouring, the mixing, and also the pulling of the samples.
So am I clear, sir, in summarizing the foam stability testing of the different compositions of the cement slurries that your company tested, that none of the cement slurries by way of the different compositions indicated that the foam was stable?
That's correct.
Now, earlier today, in response to questions I asked you and also in response to questions from the attorneys for BP, you testified that with respect to all of the samples that your lab tested for the unset foam cement slurry, none of those samples were stable, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Why would you have said that, sir, about MAC4?
Well, in our opinion and what we viewed, it's not a slurry that we would consider stable or recommend as being stable.
Okay. Well, I know you went through the API, which has previously been marked specific. It's 10B4, been marked as Exhibit 4569 in this case, and Mr. Hill went through a number of different signs of stability to try to get you to agree. So whether or not you saw those different conditions with respect to the unset foam cement slurry test of the MAC4. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. Even in light of those questions, sir, taking a step back, you were present in the lab when MAC4 was tested, correct?
Correct.
And you were present when the unset foam cement slurry of MAC4 was tested, correct?
Correct.
Do you still stand by your opinion today, sir, that with respect to the unset foam cement slurry test of the MAC4, that was not stable?
And from what we saw, yes.
As a cement tester, sir, you would not recommend that an operator pump cement like that downhole, would you?
I would try to improve the stability.
Okay. You would not say that this is an acceptable slurry to pump downhole, correct?
Not to say that you couldn't, But if you're asking me to pump this, I would say let's redesign, let's try to add more foam, or let's do something to improve stability.
Why would you want to do that, sir?
Well, again, you don't want to have, nitrogen breakout. You don't want to pump unstable slurry into a wellbore.
And the consequences of that are what you talked about, Mr. Chen, earlier today on behalf of BP, which is you could have flow come through the permeability within the foam cement if it has bubble breakout, correct?
Yes, it can.
And then you would not achieve zonal isolation, correct, sir?
That can be a result of this, yes.
And if the purpose is to prevent hydrocarbons from coming into the pipe and coming up to the surface, and you pump a unstable foam cement, it's not going to achieve that goal, right?
That would be the assumption, yes.
Right. So wouldn't that be unsafe?
Yes.